Greetings, pilots. I'm your Intel Officer So, and welcome to So, What's a Gundam? In this podcast, I'll try to answer questions that commonly come up about the Universal Century, which is the main timeline of Gundam, and try to make them easier to understand. As I said about the other recording, it wasn't meeting my expectations, and this one probably won't too, so please forgive me if I make any more mistakes. Content warning, I will make mistakes all the time. I'm gonna get something wrong. I'm gonna say something that contradicts something else. So if I do something like that, please go into the comments, timestamp where I got it wrong, and I'll try to pin you. Today's episode is about the Earth Federation. As I said in my community post, this one was a little more difficult than something like the Principality of Zeon, so please forgive me. So the first question is, who formed the Earth Federation? Well, that would be Ricardo Marcenas, as he was the first elected Prime Minister. If you recognize the last name Marcenas, it's probably because of Ridhey Marcenas from Gundam Unicorn. Ricardo Marcenas did not last long because if you watch the beginning of Unicorn Gundam, he was the guy that got blown out of the space station by that explosion in Laplace. He was very important as he made Laplace's box the MacGuffin of Gundam Unicorn, which was, I believe it was an article that stated that if new types were to come into existence, they should hold an important place in the government as much as Earth Federation does, or more. But why was Earth Federation even needed in the first place? Well, it was formed by dire necessity. Famine, disease, wars over land was happening. It wasn't great. So they eventually had to make up the Earth Federation so they could figure out what was going on. By necessity, Earth Federation had made space colonies, or as we know them, sides, and had them move the ordinary civilian to space now so Earth could recover. Usually it was the wealthy and influential figures that stayed back on Earth while ordinary people were forced into space. So after Ricardo Marcenas died, who is in charge now? Well, according to the wiki, I would have said the second Prime Minister, but there is nothing about a second Prime Minister, unfortunately. So we have to skip to the third one, George Marcenas, but we also have little to no info on him. Not too long ago, I checked the wiki, and his page was an entire blank slate, and it did not inspire confidence on this episode, let me tell you that. So what was Earth Federation's ideals? Well, they weren't great. I believe it was on Ricardo Marcenas' info page that it was George Marcenas who took him out, mostly, probably, in my opinion, because of Laplace's box. As if Laplace's box was discovered any earlier, things would have changed. As if it was discovered earlier, the political sphere of Earth Federation and Principality of Zeon would have changed, and probably the war might not have happened in the first place. I also think that they see themselves as a necessary figure in everyone's business, or probably a necessary evil, seeing as how restrictive they were being on the Principality of Zeon and probably the other space colonies. Another question that was a little bit difficult to answer was, how did they get their mobile suits? I couldn't find anything on the Earth Federation page for the fandom wiki, so I had to dig a little bit. Then I found the page for all the in-universe companies. Yeah, not great. But how did they get them? Well, it was a mix of companies contributing certain parts to Earth mobile suits. I believe almost all production was done on Earth, or at least close to it, like on Earth-sided colonies. As I said that it was a mix of companies contributing certain parts, I'll just list them down for you by name and tell you what they did specifically. I'm probably not going to say these names right, so please forgive me. Okay, here we go. Migren does auto balancers for the mobile suits. Matham Sonic does joint drive motors and communication devices. Suze creates the antennas. Takum Heavy Industries does the thrusters and nuclear reactors within the mobile suits. And Boa Inc. made the iconic beam rifle, and I would believe they would eventually go on to make the beam spray gun and other beam-related weaponry. And finally, Hervik would make the core fighter, which would be the core of many Earth Federation mobile suits, in the literal sense. The core block system, which basically had a core fighter inside of the mobile suit at its core or abdomen or whatever you want to call your stomach. These would usually be in something like the Gundam, the gun tank, and the gun cannon. Though Hervik wouldn't last long because they would eventually be absorbed by Anaheim Electronics. And as Anaheim Electronics does, they would soon be the big seller of mobile suits between both sides, being the Earth Federation and the Principality of Xi'an. And for the creation of mobile suits, there has to be a reason, and that reason was for fighting. Why did they need to fight? Well, it's because Xi'an made the first attack without declaration, or at least that's what the wiki said. It can be assumed they were also fighting to have control over the entirety of the Earth sphere. In short, I believe sphere is basically the space between Earth and all the space colonies and whatnot. Honestly, I'm not too proud of this episode, but at least we're getting through a rocky point rather than me waiting later. So that's it for now. In our next episode, I'll be trying to explain what Minovsky particles are. That's all for now, pilots. End of briefing.